Thank you very much, and a very warm welcome. That's another way to say it's hot today. And thank you for the invitation to participate to this side event. As you said, I had the opportunity to do a monitoring visit, a country visit, invited by the Nepalese authorities last year from the 4th to the 13th of December. It was a bit peculiar because the invitation had been negotiated and agreed with the previous government, and actually it was a transitory government, so we had many discussion, hesitation on whether to do the visit or not, and in agreement with the transitory Nepalese authorities, we decided that it was worth conducting the visit despite the, let's say, unstable political situation. Again, it's not the rule to do it in such circumstances, but somehow it felt that it could be useful to monitor the existing situation, which was not going to change in the next 6 months, and probably to be able, in my reporting to the Human Rights Council, which was in March this year, to make specific recommendations that could be picked up by the new government. So I'm very grateful for the Nepalese authorities to have maintained the invitation, to have helped organizing the visit. I had the opportunity to visit different parts of the countries where the situations are quite different. And naturally, the reporting to the Human Rights Council gave the opportunity to a fruitful dialogue with the Nepalese authorities. You've seen my report. They also made comments on some of my findings and recommendations. I think it was constructive on both sides, but yes, we don't necessarily agree on everything. I had since further contact with the Nepalese representation here in Geneva, and we're trying to see if it's possible to have a follow-up visit. So it's really constructive approach with the Nepalese authorities. Now, Nepal, as you know, is quite diverse country. And actually it is recognized in the Nepalese constitution, Article 3, call or qualify the country as, I quote, multi-ethnic, multilingual, multi-religious, and multicultural. So there is a recognition in this diversity in the basic legal framework of the country. And I would say in general, the legal framework is quite correct as regards human rights, quite minority friendly. Where it is a bit more difficult, it's in the implementation, where you both have difficulties linked to long-lasting practice in society, which cannot be reverted in a few decades. As you know, Nepal had major changes in something like a bit more than 10 years. So it's, well, I mean, the process had started earlier, but it really picked up speed in 2015 with the new constitution. So it is really a process in the making. And as I say, I think there are resistance in society to just implement the Black Law letter. And second, unfortunately, Nepal is a country which has also issues with resources, and it is currently lacking in some fields the capacity, financial, human capacity, to implement some policies that would be needed, and you can see that in my recommendation. And as you know, it is a difficult period for two reasons now, economically. First, a lot of foreign aid assistance have been cut everywhere, and that also hurts Nepal. And second, it's a country where you have a lot of immigration, and remittances were an important part of the economic capacity of the Nepalese society, and many of these expat workers were in the Gulf countries. And as you know, the situation has been very complicated, to say the least. There are also worries, actually, for the fate of many of these workers in the Gulf countries. But the remittances have been dramatically reduced since February this year. So we have a combination with the new government, and it is quite interesting because, as you know, I was scheduled to go for my country visit to Nepal in the last week of September, and events happened a couple of days before, well, 2 weeks before. And actually, it was one of these Gen Z movements. And so far, it is the only Gen Z movement that really produced a significant political change, where we had election in April this year, and the result was a government which actually is led by somebody representing this generation. So I think there are many hopes and opportunities for this new government to implement what you find in the legislation. As I say, it's a diverse country. There are many linguistic minorities. Actually, only about 45% of Nepalese population fluently speaks Nepalese. So it is an issue, especially as regards education. Many children enter the educational system and actually do not understand the language. So very often they drop out because naturally, well, we're probably all too old to remember what is the first day at school, but it's quite a shock. You're in a new environment, and if you don't even understand the language, then it's really too much. So there is diversity, linguistic diversity. Sorry, with the heat, my fuse are kind of melting. Thank you. There is also religious diversity. Here we have a clear majority. It's more than 80% who are Hindu. And traditionally, historically, it had been a country with a clear Hindu background. But the 2015 constitution states that Nepal is a secular state, and we have minorities. The largest religious minority are Buddhists, about 8.2%. We have 1.5 million of Muslims. This is about 5%. Naturally, the figures are not absolutely exact and so on, because as you know, this is a general issue as regards minority issues. Disaggregated data collection is always subject to a lot of interpretation, but that's about it. And then we have Christians, about 500,000 Christians. That's 1.8% more or less. We have Kirats also, a bit more than Christians actually. So we have religious diversity, but with a strong dominant group, which is Hindus. And one important aspect also I think I have to speak about, and then I'll give the floor so we can have some sort of exchange, is that Nepal is a landlocked country, which is okay. I mean, Switzerland is a landlocked country, so you can live with that, but it has big neighbors. And naturally, there is an influence from one of the big neighbors more than the other, which is a country in which tension between Hindu and Muslims have been rising for years. And this is being reflected also in the Nepalese society, especially in the southern part, which is really, I mean, it's an open border with India. So that's also part of the context and something that has to be taken into account when we evaluate the situation and the relationship between the religious groups in Nepal. So I will not go over the recommendation. I've seen with pleasure that my report was available out there. So we naturally, if you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer and to dialogue with panelists or with the room. Thank you.